Hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on motor vehicle accidents and case enhancement. My name is Paul Myers. I'm the CEO and Chairman of Advocate Capital. We provide the AdvoTrack case expense funding service to over 550 law firms across the U.S. I'm happy to be joined today by Gabriel Sepulveda-Sanchez of the Sepulveda Sanchez Law firm in California. Gabriel, thank you again for joining us. Quick bio for Gabriel. He graduated from Cal State University in Northridge with a bachelor's degree in philosophy. Continued his education, getting his law degree from Syracuse University College of Law in New York, where he achieved outstanding awards for completion of the trial advocacy program. Over his career, Gabriel has secured millions of dollars in judgments, verdicts, and settlements on behalf of his clients. And these cases have ranged anywhere from simple car accidents to catastrophic injury cases. He's licensed to practice law in California and is focused on personal injury law his entire career. He's a member of the Beverly Hills Bar Association and the Mexican American Bar Association. So Gabriel, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join us today.
You guys hear me now?
Yes, there he is.
Okay, great. I was going to say, I'm also licensed in New York now, so we can
add great.
That.
Excellent.
Great.
All right. Well, just a quick disclaimer. This webinar is prepared for informational purposes only. Always use your own judgment, get your own advice before you make any decisions. But quick overview. We're going to cover some general topics, and Gabriel's going to be doing most of the talking because I'm just your host. I don't know a great deal about motor vehicle injury law. I know a lot about finance and how to help plaintiff law firms manage their practice and use our product. But we're going to go over some general topics. Gabriel's going to get into some trucking issues, motorcycle accident issues, and general car accident issues. And we'll kind of wrap up with some general tips. With that, I will turn it over to Gabriel. And I think we're going to start by Gabriel about how to enhance the case value. How do you approach a case to get the most settlement value for it or enhance the value of it?
You know, Paul, I've been practicing about 11 years now. I have my own practice for about 7. And one thing I've learned is that I don't think there's any hidden trick or a certain law per se. I think you really have to approach the case like you're going to go to trial. And that is the way my settlements have been increasing. When you show the insurance company or the defense attorneys that you know what you're doing, you're getting the right documents, the right witnesses, and you're building your trial from day one, that's how you increase settlement value. So I always tell, some of the people I mentor or people I talk to, I said, approaching the case with that mindset is, if I'm going to trial tomorrow, what documents am I going to need? What witnesses am I going to need? And what jury instructions are going to what jury instructions are going to be heard?
Right.
What special jury instructions? That's where this seminar comes into play, is the industry standards. If you know what the industry standards are and what the laws are, then you're going to know what to do in discovery, and then they're going to know you're going to be prepared, and they're going to start throwing money at you. So that's how I believe that you enhance the case value.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I've heard that from other attorneys as well, that no matter what you think the case is or what it's worth, you have to start from day one, assuming you're going to trial, assuming you're going all the way. And that will enhance probably any value you can get from the case. So what are the key differences between like trucking accidents and regular car accidents?
Well, the major difference is, I think, is obviously the trucks are bigger. There's more risk for serious injury with trucks. And also the insurance limits. They're by law, they're required to have higher insurance limits on those cases.
Right.
One of the other things is that there's more laws that protect us, other motorists, that are built into federal statutes, state statutes that require a lot of things, require a lot of these trucking industries and truck drivers to abide by. So yes, there are protections for motorists in general under the vehicle code of your state, but the trucking industry and the truck drivers, they have laws that are very strict, and it's very regulated that they have to do certain things to protect us, the other motorists. So the key difference to me is that there's just more laws that are beneficial to us, the regular drivers on the road, and that there's more accountability with truck drivers. There's a lot of laws that are just very strict on what they do and what they don't do. And the injuries are obviously, it's catastrophic for the, if you're getting in a truck driving accident, and you survive it, chances are your life's gonna be changed forever. But yeah, those are the similar. That's what I have to say. The key differences are.
Okay. Well, so you mentioned some of the regulatory issues and some of the laws that are in place. And I know we have some slides that kind of get into that regarding trucking cases. So maybe you could just kind of start here between interstate and intrastate carriers.
So the key thing is when you get a trucking case, what I've learned is that you have to find out, is this truck driver or this truck company an interstate company or
Mm-hmm.
interstate company? So what that means is that if the truck is only allowed to drive within the state, they're going to be regulated by that state's laws. Now, sometimes the federal law, the federal statutes, the state statutes will mimic or copy the federal statutes, but you want to make sure and figure that out. If this company I'm dealing with is only allowed to drive in the state, then you're going to be bound by state law. Now, the second thing is that if it's a national trucking company and it goes interstate, what that means is that it's traveling across state boundaries, then you're going to be regulated by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. So if anyone wants to take notes on that, this statute governs all truck drivers that drive interstate. It's the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration Safety Act. So I'll just say FMC SA for the rest of the seminar. But so what happens is if you have to determine what kind of case I have as far as is this company only allowed to drive within the state or across state lines. Now, for this purpose of this seminar, and I'll explain the case I currently have, it's against an interstate carrier. So we're going to be bound by that federal statute. So that's the difference between what truck driving case you have. You need to figure that out immediately.
Okay. Did you want to take a look at that particular case? I think we have a slide for that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. We can talk about that case. So one of the cases that we signed up, we just actually signed this up in January, and it involved a young, I think he was 38-year-old male. He's a security driver, or he's a security guard, and driving home late from work about around midnight. And what he's going to testify to is that I was driving, all of a sudden I saw a truck right in front of me and just smashed into it. And real serious collision. He's testimonies that there was no lights, no warning lights, no hazard lights, and that the traffic there was no stop traffic. Everyone was going at the speed of traffic, and all of a sudden this truck, he just didn't know it was stopped, and he just hit it. So obviously the police report puts him at fault for driving under unsafe driving, too much speed for the traffic conditions. So basically his mom comes to me. This young man is, he's already had 4 surgeries on his leg, serious injury, probably is not going to be able to walk again. And they come to me because they're concerned, like, hey, the police report puts him at fault. My son says that I didn't see any, he didn't see any lights. He had no idea. And first thing I think as a lawyer is I want to figure out what happened here. Was he drunk? Would he fall asleep at the wheel? Was he drinking and driving? Because you got to figure those things out. So I talked to him. I met with him in the hospital, and he's like, no, like I was alert, and I didn't see any. I just didn't know this truck was just stopped out of nowhere, and I really don't know what happened. So what we did find out, we reviewed the police report, is that this truck driver's air brakes failed. His air brakes just failed on the freeway, and they did an inspection of the vehicle, and there was actually a hole in the air hose. So it's obviously there was some negligent maintenance going on. Our trucking expert even told us, hey, these air hoses don't just bust for no reason. They probably didn't do proper inspections, probably didn't maintenance it enough. So that's one of the cases we're dealing with right now. And when I look at the facts here, I'm already seeing a few issues. Okay, first, there's a negligent maintenance issue in this case, obviously, because that air brake busted in the middle of the highway. Second is, did this person, now we'll just talk about, I'll go through general, then I'll go through this. But second is, did the truck driver have proper protocol when his air brakes failed? What is he supposed to do? And I'll go through that statute later. my client says that there was no warning flashers on. Okay, and then the truck driver says there was. So there's ways that we can figure that out. And also, I want to look into what was his driving, what was his state of mind at the time of the collision? I mean, at the time the air brakes failed, was he fatigued? How many hours were on the road with? How many hours was he on the road for? Those are some of the issues I see. I think the biggest issues are, how did this air brake hose bust? How does air brakes fail? And then what did he? What did he have the proper? Did he do proper procedure when his truck failed on the road? What was he supposed to do? Just a side note. When my client collided with that truck, there's witnesses that say that the truck was stopped and that the truck just started dragging my client's vehicle across the lanes. And so it's like, we have to figure out was that the way he was supposed to handle that situation. There's a lot of unknowns that we have to do, that we have to discover in the discovery process. So those are just some of the issues that this case involves right now.
Right. You mentioned your trucking expert. I mean, I know you need them. Is it more, I guess, is it very important that they get involved immediately?
Very, very important. You want your truck driver, you want to do an inspection of that vehicle immediately. The situation, we want your truck driver wants to go look at that air hose or the air brakes that failed and wants to figure out what happened.
Right.
It's hard to do that when they've had time to fix it. You want a truck driving safety expert, and you want an accident reconstructionist to go out there immediately before they've made any repairs or alterations.
Right.
So it's always best, they can do a better job and have more credibility when they testify in trial that they did this and they saw the actual condition the truck was in. So very important to do that right away. Yeah.
Got it. Well, do you want to get a little deeper into some of the maintenance and other issues that may be part of this case?
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I wanted to put a side note is that you want to also, if you get one of these truck driving cases, there's special letters of preservation that you need to send immediately to the trucking company, the insurance company, because you can't just approach this case like a regular vehicle accident. Under the statute, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Act, they're required to keep all these records. So you want to make sure they preserve it. They don't alter the vehicle. You want to get that letter of preservation out like immediately. So we'll go back. Let's go back to the negligent maintenance standard.
There you go.
So under the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, section 396.3A, it requires a systematic inspection of the truck. So this isn't just like a regular car accident where people go in there once a time a year or once every couple of years to check on their brakes and their engine oil. The federal law for interstate truck drivers is that they have a systematic inspection for maintenance, repairs, and you have to show that there was some sort of system done, that you checked a pre-trip inspection and post-trip inspection, your periodic maintenance requirements. It's a very, very hard standard, not a hard standard, but it's a very strict standard that they have to abide by if they're going to travel across state lines. So one thing that it's good to note too is that if you're an interstate truck driver, you're required to register your vehicle with the Secretary of Transportation. You're required to register your vehicle with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, and they have safety fitness ratings that are on a certain website. So just a side note, if anyone has one of these types of cases and they want to know if there's any safety violations, or they want to know if there's been this driver's had other accidents, or if there's been you want to know the inspection history, you can actually go to safer.fmcsa.dot.gov. So it's called a Safety and Fitness Electronic Record System. So when you have one of these cases, you can actually go online and figure out the history behind that company you're about to sue, or the history behind the actual truck. Things are just not available to us in regular car accident and motorcycle cases. So and a good we can, with these types of truck cases, you have a lot of ammunition and a lot of help
Mhm.
the law gives you to prosecute your case. So just a side note on that, So now, as far as the inspections go, you want to make sure in discovery, if you know that there's a negligent maintenance issue, especially,
Mhm.
request all those repair records, request the
Right.
maintenance records, any Department of Transportation reports, pre-trip inspection reports, post-trip inspections. This is what's required under the statute for them to have. And
Mhm.
on the record keeping, what you want to know is that under this section 396.3b,
Mhm.
they have if they have a motor vehicle within their possession for more than 30 days, a motor carrier truck, motor carrier vehicle, they have to have these records. They have
Mhm.
to. So it's not like, we deal with this a lot in car accident cases. You ask for whatever repair records, and they're not, they'll say, oh, we don't have them, or they'll try to evade you, whatever it is.
Right.
They can't do that in trucking cases. They're
Mhm.
required by the law. Federal government, the Federal Safety Administration requires you to have those records. So they're going to be on file for you. If they're not
Right.
there, then you can bring that up.
Right.
So um, make sure to, if they're giving you problems about, we don't have these records, send a letter with the this code section saying that this is what you're required to have. So obviously the maintenance records are important, repair records, um, pre-trip inspection, post-trip inspection, um, all these things are required under that statute for them to have on file for you.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Mhm.
So I put this vehicle code section, or this regulation on, because this is something we're dealing with in this case right now.
Right.
Um, the question in the case we're dealing with is, what was the driver required to do when his air brakes failed on the highway?
Mhm.
And under this code section 392.22, has to deal with the emergency signals and stopped commercial motor vehicles. Under this statute, it requires that a driver immediately put its flashers on, and then within 10 minutes, not more than 10 minutes, they're supposed to put 3 different hazard signs around the vehicle. And the statute will actually specify where to put those hazard signs at.
Mhm.
So if you want the details, and they talk about how many feet from the front, the driver's side door, the passenger side door, and the back. They specify in that statute. But we know under this law that in our case, since he was an interstate truck driver, and his
Mhm.
vehicle was stopped because of an emergency, his air brakes failed, he was
Mhm.
required to immediately put his flashers on and put out these warning signals. These warning
Right.
signs. Okay. So that's something we're going to take depositions on and figure out, why he didn't do that. How long was he stopped on the road? We need to figure that out. Okay.
Right.
So um, those are procedures that he must take. We know for a fact, my client, said that he didn't have his flashers on. There's definitely wasn't any hazard signs on there, so we know there's problems there. He's going to testify that there was warning flashers, but it's going to be a word versus word on that issue. But we
Right.
do know that he didn't have any of those signs up. So then the next
Right.
question is, how long was he stopped for?
Mhm.
There's how long was he stopped on the highway for? So obviously, I already see it coming. The truck driver is going to say, my air brakes failed, and all of a sudden I just felt an impact. Okay.
Mhm.
Now we can't just take his word for that. So
Right.
we can request cell phone records, 911 call reports. He should have made a 911 call immediately if this happened.
Mhm.
And then I think it's Qualcomm messages, where there's actually communication systems in the truck where
Mhm.
you can call, there's records of it where you can see if he's actually made an emergency request under that Qualcomm message system too. So these are things that we want to explore in discovery, and take his deposition, get the records, and figure out what exactly he did. Because if he
Right.
violated this law, let's assume the case doesn't settle and we're at trial, we're going to have a special jury instruction on this issue, and we're going to
Mhm.
have the witnesses and discuss what happened here. And if we can show that he didn't do this step by step, then we got a negligence per se issue there.
Right.
So um, So yeah, that's, these are the three main kind of things I'm dealing with right now in this case. I'm right in my office. So
Good.
I'm sorry, I
Thank
keep
you.
looking at, I'm gonna look at the camera. I keep looking up because the screen's up here, but I'll get
I
it.
know, I know, I know. It's hard. We were talking earlier. It's hard to speak to a camera and an
Yeah, I hear
inanimate
it.
object. I keep wanting to look over at Gabriel. It doesn't work well.
Yeah, I got
Anyway,
you.
uh, and then there was I know that there are regs out there as part of the same law regarding how often they can, or how long they can drive versus how long they rest,
Yes.
and
So as you can
tell me a
see,
little bit more about this.
yeah, there's no real specificity in the vehicle codes we as regular drivers, but like I said, under this federal statute, there's a lot more.
Hmm.
They're very regulated. It's there to protect us.
Right.
So under the Federal Carrier Motor Safety Act 395.3A, it states that a driver can't drive more than 11 hours after 10 hours off. So
Right.
what that means is that he has to be off duty, no driving duty, nothing going on for at
Right.
least 10 hours before
Hmm.
he can drive 11 hours.
Right.
So the cool thing about not about these cases is that there's I can't remember the system. Is it OnStar? I forgot the name of the system. Federal.
Hmm.
Let's look at my notes here. There's actually an on-duty system. There's actually a system in the trucks now where you have to, when you're driving, you punch it, and then when you're off, when you're not driving, you clock out, and it's a duty time kind of tracking device for
Right.
truck drivers. So you want to request that in these cases. You want to figure out maybe fatigue was a factor here.
Hmm.
How long was he driving prior? How long was he driving on the road for? Was he driving 13 hours and then he had a 10-hour break before that? Because obviously,
Right.
if that's the case, then you got an issue with driver fatigue under the law.
Yeah.
So if you're in discovery and you find out that this guy was driving for 15 hours and the last break he had was 10 hours, well, you got another negligence per se issue, obviously,
Right.
arguably. So um, you want to figure out, you want to request those duty records that are going to be in the truck driver system, the trucking system they have there for these cases.
Right.
So I made some notes here. Yeah, it's a GPS onboarding system, and it records your daily driver status. So they'll have that. If it's one of these vehicles that's driving interstate, they're going to have that there.
Hmm.
So you want to obviously get those records to figure out if there's an issue with driver fatigue. So
Yeah.
going back to when I say the trial mindset, it's just true. If you
Right.
know that I'm going to use this jury instruction, I'm going to have a special jury instruction on this statute, this code section,
Right.
that will help you get these records ahead of time, way before the trial begins, and it's going to increase your settlement value.
Oh yeah. No doubt.
Um, yeah, I know how lawyers can be. I know, I get it. Small business owners are busy. I know guys that'll file a lawsuit and then they'll be digging up discovery 5-6 months later. I know how that is. But if you want to get bigger settlements, you gotta show them that you know what you're doing from the beginning, and you gotta
Right.
be on top of it.
Yeah.
So like I said, case enhancement, get ready, know what these laws are, know what you're gonna present at trial from day one, and then just go out and get the records. The roadmap's laid out for you if you have that mindset.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of these laws, I think, probably came as a result of the plaintiff bar holding the trucking companies to task. I mean, the last thing I want is somebody driving a weapon that large who hasn't slept in 2 days.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Yes.
that's pretty frightening.
It's scary.
I
It is
want
very
them
scary.
alert and knowing what they're doing, but
Yeah.
kind of
Another thing is too, you always, with this case, it's very sad. Some of the cases, these truck driving cases, what happens,
right.
and these are huge. These are weapons on the road like that.
Yeah.
They cause death and serious injury. And you always think that could have been a family member of mine. That could have been my mom. Whatever it is. So that's what kind of drives me, motivates me to get a just result on these cases.
Yeah.
We're doing a good thing by holding them truck drivers accountable to make sure they're abiding by these laws.
Well,
So definitely.
well, that's hugely important. We take the same mindset here at Advocate. We look at we've got 550 law firms across the country that we provide financing for. Really, we have 70,000 separate cases that we're tracking in our AvidTrack system on behalf of those 550 law firms, the way we look at it is, hey, that's 70,000 people who sometime in the last year or two probably had one of the worst days of their life, and they're looking for help. And what we're doing is hopefully providing firms like you and others the financial resources, at least, where you could go get the best experts and things like that. So that it's hugely important to us to remember every day, hey, this is not just a finance company. What our clients do is not just lawyering. It's you're helping people. You're helping people who've had horrible things happen to them. And so those are really important points.
Definitely. You guys
Kind of,
provide the ammunition for us. Yeah.
and we're thrilled to do it.
Yeah.
Kind of shifting gears, no pun intended, to motorcycle accidents. Wanted to run through some of the, I guess, issues that you see there. What are some of the common issues that you run into when you're representing a client that's been involved in a motorcycle accident?
You know, these are interesting cases, totally different from trucking accidents.
Right.
So the way I can describe it is, obviously, we said the trucking laws are designed to protect us,
Right.
protect other motorists. Motorcyclists don't have a lot of that on their side. So you have to do some research, figure out what happened in your motorcycle case, and use the vehicle code to your benefit as much as you can. What makes these cases so difficult is that it's just they know typically that a lot of people don't like motorcyclists. I know I'm speaking in general terms, but there's a perception about bikers out there. They're risk takers. They put themselves in these situations. So I think what's really key is, just thinking about what your issues are in the beginning of the case, beginning when you sign up these files. And voir dire is very important in these cases. You need to you need to talk to the jury about what their belief systems are about motorcyclists. And I think it's just so, voir dire, in my opinion, is the most important part of the trial. I really believe that.
Right.
You want to get jurors in there, they're going to be objective. You want to get rid of those bad jurors. So you want to talk about, how do you feel about motorcyclists, and one thing in California is we allow lane splitting. So lane splitting is basically when a motorcycle is driving in between the two lanes in between two vehicles. So you want to discuss these issues. We've had lane splitting motorcycle accidents, and you want to put that law out there, and you want to let the defense attorney and the insurance company know that, let them know that you know what you're doing. I'm going to present this as a special jury instruction. My client was allowed to do this. So I think in these motorcycle accidents, you need to, like I said, having that trial mindset. You need to think about how a jury. We need to get rid of bad jurors on this case. I think that's a big part of doing a good job on these files.
Right.
Also, if you go back to those law, what's the first vehicle code section?
That one.
So that one's fine. There's always that vehicle code violation where it's always you're driving too fast for traffic conditions. But people don't realize that there's actually a law that you can't drive too slow based on traffic conditions too.
Right.
So I put this vehicle code. This is a California vehicle code section. If you're in another state, then you might have a similar vehicle code section that discusses driving too slow. But a lot of times these motorcyclists, they may be coming onto a freeway or highway or whatever it is, a road, and they end up rear-ending someone. And and they'll tell you, like, I had no idea they were stopped. They were everything. My peripheral vision, the vehicles were going speed of traffic, and this guy was just boom. All of a sudden, I just hit him. So that is an issue that we've dealt with, and they're difficult cases. Obviously, the insurance company is going to say he wasn't paying attention, he's driving too fast for traffic conditions. As a biker, they have they have an edge on those types of arguments a little bit. So, but if you listen to your client, he's telling you, listen, I'm sober. I just, all of a sudden, this car was just boom, and everything else was going in front of me. You can approach your discovery and the way you gather evidence based on this law here. If you have some sort of situation where your client rear-ended a vehicle, it does happen as a motorcyclist. You can use this and be like, okay, well, figure out how fast you're going, and I had a case one time where it was a similar fact pattern, and this person was texting and driving, and he wasn't paying attention. So But there's ways to help your motorcycle accident through the vehicle code section. You just got to figure out what happened in your situation, and use those laws to your advantage, because they're out there to protect you against unsafe slow drivers. So one situation that has occurred at our office. Yeah. So if we can go to the next slide. This actually applies to bicyclists and motorcycles. Is there's a code section under California law 22517 vehicle code that you can't open your doors unless it's safe to do so. Okay.
Right.
So this is very important in bicyclist cases. It does happen, and we've had some of these in motorcycle cases too. But a driver is required to safely open their vehicle door and look to make sure there's no motorcyclists or bicyclists on that path. So I see this more with bike accidents. The defendant will say, he just came out of nowhere. They always say that he just came out of nowhere. Well, if you have, everyone comes out of nowhere. But if you with this statute, again, you sign up a case with this fact pattern where maybe a motorcyclist or bicyclist was hit by a person that opened his door. If you have the statute and you start crafting your discovery around there, then you can use that in your trial too as a special jury instruction. So it happens. We've had motorcycle cases like this. I've had a case where it was like a kind of a road rage case where this guy, he said a group of motorcyclists going past his lane, and he just they were stopped traffic, and he just opened his door up. That was obviously, that was a little bit more easier to settle, but it was almost like an intentional act. But these things do happen, and these vehicle codes, like I said, there's not a lot of motorcycle laws that protect them a lot. Not like us, not like the truck driver cases where they were protected. So you have to really use the vehicle code in your state to, I would say, be creative a little bit, or figure out what kind of arguments you have. So yeah.
Yeah, the open door there brought back a flash for me. I used to bike to work, it was about a 10-mile bike, and I would bike into my office. And there's a section of road that I would be on where they had a bike lane, and then they had a parking area just inside it, or just on the curb. And it's all downhill, and I was going down, I bet I was doing 30, 35 miles an hour down this hill on a regular road bike, and somebody opened their door, and it was wide enough. Luckily, I was able to swerve out and miss it, and luckily nobody was coming up behind me in another car, but it was very, very close. And so that was, those things happen.
I think the lane splitting, my understanding is that it's in California, we allow that. So you would have to research your state if lane splitting is allowed. I'm not sure if we're the only state that has that. But you want to discuss, if you have a case here in California, if you have if they end up passing that law regarding lane splitting in your state, you still want to, you obviously want that as your special jury instruction. But you want to talk to the jurors about that, because I'll be honest with you, I didn't know that was legal, and until like 5 years ago or whatever, but a few years ago. So I used to think like, these motorcyclists are just coming right by me, they're irritating, they're loud, So, but if you got to talk to a juror about that. How do you feel about lane splitting? Do you think that's scary? Do you think they should be if someone gets hurt in a lane splitting incident? Do you think that the motorcyclist has some responsibility and he took that risk? So you got to really, we can call for what it is. A lot of people, I don't mind bikers, but a lot of people have a bad attitude or a bias towards them. You hear the loud bike and it's just annoying. I get annoyed when I hear someone. So you have to really, if you're going to go to trial in one of these cases, you need to really talk about that and get rid of jurors that aren't going to be fair to your client. So I think these are very challenging cases, definitely.
Yeah, it was. We just had a comment from the audience, Gabriel. I'm not. It says, I'll read it to you. I was actually recently involved in a car accident and would like to find out more information on how to possibly pursue a case. I guess, what would you say would be the first steps if you're in an automobile accident and you feel that someone else is responsible for it and you want to pursue a case? What would you recommend first steps?
I'm sorry. The question was basically if someone gets in a car accident and they want to pursue a case right away.
Right. They'd like to find out more information on how to possibly pursue a case. Right.
Okay. Well, first of all, you want to ask your network and see if there's any personal injury lawyers they would recommend. I really believe in if you someone that you want to go to an attorney that's going to trust that is trustworthy,
Right.
has good reviews, and that someone that is reputable. So that's first things first. You need a lawyer on these cases. Make sure to, if you're injured, I think I always tell clients when they sign up, if it's not a serious injury, serious big injury case, I tell them I have to manage your expectations. Listen, in these cases, my job is to get you the most compensation I can.
Right.
And the way these companies, the insurance companies, are going to value these cases is they're going to look at how badly you're hurt, what are your medical expenses, and whether they're at fault. So if you're hurt and you're having sought medical treatment, you need to go immediately to go see a doctor or your medical care provider. The insurance companies, they automatically don't, they assume that you're not hurt if you don't go to the doctor quickly.
Right.
So you want to, obviously, if you're hurt and you're involved in a vehicle accident, go see a specialist, go see your doctor to get it documented. Okay, that's the first things first. Make sure that you have the driver's insurance information. Make sure you have their property damage. I'm sorry. Make sure you have the driver's insurance information, driver's license, all that stuff, so we can open a claim for you. Okay.
Right.
So if you didn't suffer from a fracture or something crazy, a fracture or something really bad, a lost limb, then you just have what they call soft tissue case, the soft tissue type of injury. It's important that you get medical treatment, and a personal injury lawyer can actually send you to doctors. If you don't have health insurance, we can send you to doctors that operate on a lien, and won't get paid till the case settles. So we can manage your treatment and get you to the doctors you need to help you increase your case value, and more importantly, get you better. So see a lawyer and save all the documents right away. If you're hurt, go see a doctor and then contact an attorney.
Right. Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's helpful. And I guess that's a good segue, Gabriel, into more traditional car accidents.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about with car accidents. So I really wanted to present on the trial we did, and which we won. And I think everyone, if there's a lot of lawyers listening, I'm sure the biggest argument we hear is from the insurance companies is there's no mechanism for injury, So when I hear that, it gets me angry. It irritates me. I'm like, here we go. It's gonna be a fight, like. So we'll talk about that. I'll share some of the trial that we did where there was like barely any damage. So this is actually the bumper of a vehicle, a trial that we did last year. And this is what I remember the case. She was stopped at a stop sign, and a truck, not a truck like a big commercial truck, it's a regular pickup truck, rear-ended her. And I think she was about 58-year-old, about 58 years old. And her testimony is that I was stopped, I got rear-ended, my head hit the steering wheel. I felt immediate pain in my shoulder, and my car was actually shifted to the left a little bit. So, when those sound, pretty significant, like she banged herself up. But when you look at the property damage, there's like nothing there.
Right.
Like there's like, and so we were like, and they weren't giving us any money at all. So we decided, we're like, you know what, we like this client. She's credible. This case got to us way later. She ended up treating with her health insurance. She had a torn rotator cuff, and I think she went to some physical therapy. But the insurance company didn't want to take any responsibility for it. They're like, there's no way this caused any injury. My guy said, their driver says, I had my foot on the brake. My phone hit the ground, and I went to go pick it up, and I slowly rolled into her. That's his testimony. So we're like, okay, like, I guess he said that I slowly rolled into her while I was looking with the steering wheel. I rolled into her, and my foot just slid off the brake. So he had no credibility whatsoever.
Right.
But they weren't offering. I think they offered us like $5,000. Like, and they were just like, you know what? Let's just go to trial. It was a risky case.
Right.
But with these types of cases, people call me up and they're like, hey, what do we do with this type of situation? I believe my client's hurt, but look at my property damage. And I tell them, well, first things first, really decide if you want to do those cases, because they're very tough. Insurance companies, are going to push you to the limit there, and jurors don't like them, in my opinion. They don't like these cases. So
Right.
you really, first of all, consider if you want to take that risk and do it. If you want to,
Right.
if you want to fight the good fight and go all the way on this type of case, then do it. But know that you have to be willing to lose, on
Right.
those ones. The two experts that we had on this case, we had an orthopedic surgeon. Yeah, we had orthopedic surgeon on this case. And then we also had a biomechanics expert, but I'll stick with this right now. So
Okay.
with these no mechanism for injury cases, a lot of times the people that are hurt, they have pre-existing health conditions, they're
Mm.
older,
Right.
and what you want to do is you want to talk to your expert and get the medical records to them and be like, listen, could this happen? What happened here? Our client had no history of any shoulder injury whatsoever before.
Mm.
So what our expert in this case told us is like, what he noticed when he saw her MRIs and X-rays and everything. He said there's tendonitis in her shoulder, calcific tendonitis, calcium
Right.
tendinosis. And he says that what happens is that in women that are that age, there's calcium deposits can be on your ligaments, and it makes them more brittle and more susceptible to injury.
Okay.
For this type of for like a rear end collision, especially if your hands are on the steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
So you want, in my opinion, if you have one of these cases, get those medical records and have an expert look at them and see if he can give you an opinion on how this happened and what
Right.
makes people more susceptible to it. And I've learned a lot. I learned that women are more susceptible to these calcium deposits in their shoulders, and that it doesn't take much to even if it was partially torn, a slight bump can actually, or a slight sudden movement can tear the ligament. So you got to look at those factors, and get those medical records for these type of low impact cases. Get those medical records over to an expert to see what happened and how this could have happened, and you'll learn a lot. So very important on these no mechanisms for injury cases to figure out how did he get hurt when maybe that wouldn't have hurt me.
Right.
So the
You mentioned
biomechanics, yeah, on the biomechanics issue, the biomechanic, he's going to look, the interesting part, we had this guy named Arthur Croft who was really good in our case.
Mm-hmm.
What he did was what was really powerful for us. A couple things, he had an inspection. He had pictures of the bumper torn down,
Hmm.
and he showed that, okay, there's not a lot of visible damage on behind the bumper, but if you look at you tear down the bumper, and there's what's called a reinforcement energy bar, and I guess that
Mm-hmm.
absorbs some of the energy in a collision. He
Right.
says, look, there was no, yes, the bumper wasn't that bad, but if you pull it down, look at this dent in the rear enforcement energy bar. That energy bar is made to like absorb a lot of the impact. So he said there was strong enough force here. There's strong enough force to actually cause damage to the energy bar, which needed to be replaced. So
Mm-hmm.
he also had this video too of he had a collision vehicle where he was it was like an experimental video. It was, the vehicle top was torn off, and it was a woman in a driving, and then there was a dummy in the passenger seat. And I guess he conducted experiments where he would do like small little vehicle collisions, little small like bumper car almost kind of
Mm-hmm.
impacts, and he would measure like the delta V and the forces that were upon the body. He would actually record the movement in a very small 3-mile-an-hour collision and how the body moves. And we played that video for the jury, and like the defense attorneys were objecting. That's prejudicial, but we got it in. They took the sound off a little bit, but that helped us out because we showed that even though there wasn't a lot of damage, it doesn't take much to
Right.
put a response on the body.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you need for these types of cases, you're going to need a biomechanics expert, an orthopedic expert for sure.
Right.
Another thing, if we go to the next one.
Yep.
Okay, so this is, like I said, this is the most, I really believe that voir dire is the most important part of a trial or of these types of cases, especially. You need to talk. One of the questions we asked in the beginning, we did a mini opening statement, and mini opening kind of puts out your bad facts. So we put our bad facts out there. We said, listen, this lady was rear-ended, she sustained a rotator cuff tear, and the property damage is not there's not much property damage at all. Not
Right.
much visible property damage, you said. if the bumper, the puncture appears to be a puncture mark of a fist-sized puncture mark, and that's the extent of the visible damage. Okay, you need to really put in that juror's head so they're not surprised when you put on your trial how bad that picture looks.
Mm-hmm.
You need to tell them that there's not a lot of visible damage, and you need to ask jurors questions about, okay, do you have any sort of bias, or do you think that someone could not be hurt if there's not a lot of visible damage in a vehicle? And some people are going to be like, yeah, I would suspect the airbags didn't go off, there's not a lot of property damage, I don't think they're hurt, blah blah blah. So you obviously want to eliminate those jurors.
Right.
And then you're going to get some people to talk about, you know what, I get people's bodies are different, people's age and health have to do with, with whether that force was enough to cause an injury. Maybe not to me, but maybe that force would have caused it to an older lady.
Right.
So you really gotta let the jurors know from the beginning that your property damage sucks. Like, not to say like your property damage is not, there's not a lot of it at all.
Right.
And then, so by the time you do your opening statement and you're presenting your exhibits, they're not shocked when they see this little photo.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta, that's one of the biggest things you need to voir dire and discuss. Put it in their heads right away that anyone having problems with this, we don't have a lot of damage. Like, blow it up how small the property damage is, in my opinion. Let them know, like, so you can talk about it. So very important. There are some jury instructions for these types of cases. In California, we have a susceptible plaintiff jury instruction, and you obviously want that, and you want to discuss that, or you want that in your trial, obviously, for your jury instructions. But in my opinion, you need, for those minimal impact cases, you need the voir dire very good. You need a biomechanics expert, and you need an orthopedic surgeon expert, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think kind of getting into more general tips. I guess I wanted to ask, because I'm not an attorney, but say I was a young attorney just coming out and getting started. What would you tell young lawyers who want to start trying cases? What are kind of like the specific things you think that they ought to learn how to do and do well?
I'll admit, I was one of those guys a few years ago when someone would say focus group. I'm like, I don't have time for that. I'm busy. You just don't have as many cases as me. All these excuses not to do focus groups. And one of my co-counsels, a guy I try cases with, he was telling me, we got to do it. We got to do it. I'm like, And I'll tell you what, the focus group is powerful because you get a real idea of what people in the community think about your case. And you can present the good facts, the bad facts. What we did in our focus group is I did an opening. And that's a cool thing too, is that doing a focus group ahead of trial, it helps you prepare a month or so before it. And so you have an opening statement and you're already ready to rock. When you're 30 days before a trial, you already have an opening statement done, or you have something in the works. So that's one of the kind of the side benefits of it. It gets you forced to get prepared. But I did present an opening statement about my case, what I plan on talking about at a trial. And then my co-counsel, he did a defense opening, and I didn't know what his defense opening was. And he did a good job. He talked about, how the defendant was, an immigrant and came here for the American dream and all this stuff. And, he's like, okay, this is good. It's like almost like real practice.
Yeah.
And what you do, you can practice your jury selection. You can talk about those issues I just explained about the low property damage, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You want to hear what the common layperson, a non-lawyer, thinks about your case. And a dog bite case we did a voir dire on this about a couple months ago. I had issues with one of the main witnesses is very tattooed up, and had, I was kind of concerned that maybe people wouldn't like her and not think she was credible.
Right.
It's a word versus word kind of case. And when I actually presented her there, and we did a little mini direct examination, and the jurors loved her. They loved her, thought she was super credible, and that what a focus group will do will give you more confidence, and you'll be more motivated to give you more confidence in your trial. So you can discuss all those bad facts or whatever it is that you're worried about. You put it out there, and then you can have them give you a number on what the cases were. So that helps you. If it's a car accident, dog bite, whatever it is, you'll know, like, hey, I can feel confident asking for this range of money.
Right.
And so they're just invaluable. So if you're a new attorney or you want to start trying cases, you do focus groups. It's very great. Another thing I would say is you just got to do it. I think a lot of people overthink it. They're oh, I don't have the money, or I don't want to lose. And you just there's nothing. You can go to all the seminars you want. You
Right.
can read it about it in books. You're just not going to learn until you go through the process. And it's scary at first, but once you're in there, you're having fun. It's an exciting thing. It's very empowering because, like I said, Paul, when you try cases, you know how to approach them from the beginning, and
Right.
it increases your settlement value. They always say, okay, these guys that try cases, they get all this big money. I don't really believe that per se. I mean, maybe some of the few big trial guys out there, they know people know their names and they're throwing money at them. But what I think it is that when you try cases, you know what you're doing from the beginning and what I need to do to win.
Right.
So, and it gives you this confidence, like, hey, you know what? I can do this. I can try this case. I can say no to your offer. I know exactly what I need to do to win.
Hmm.
If you haven't been through a trial, it's very hard to figure out how do you know how to win when you go through a
Right.
trial. It's going to help you be a better lawyer in the end. So just get there and do it. If you don't have the money, because it can be very expensive with experts.
Right.
Bring in a friend, co-counsel it. Um, I would also recommend, with Advocate Capital, like,
Hmm.
Advocate Capital has been a game changer for my practice. Um, you can get those experts you need without putting any burden on your cash flow of the business. You can put that money
Right.
towards marketing, your salary, your employees, whatever it is. So get a good trusted funding company that can help you
Mhm.
finance those trials. You
Right.
absolutely need the money and financing to try cases, but
Yep.
there's options out there. If you don't have the money, look into a lawyer financing company,
Right.
bring a co-counsel in. You could refer it out. I
Mhm.
don't. I would. I have my feelings about referring cases out all the time. But uh, it's good. I really would recommend you can do it. These guys, some of these guys hitting these big verdicts, they're not. Some of them, yeah, they are talented, but some of them are just regular guys who are just trying the case.
Right.
So I wouldn't
Yeah.
let it intimidate you. Just go out and do it, and it'll just change your practice. You start trying cases, you're going to change your practice, and
Right.
you're gonna be a better lawyer for it.
And you're right. To do it right, you do need to spend money on the right experts, and it does potentially get expensive. But then you have to remember that most of the time the defendants are represented it's either a large corporation or an insurance company, and so they don't have endless cash, but they sure have a lot more cash
Yeah,
than available than most plaintiff attorneys. And that's kind of what we try to do is even that playing field a little bit. And all we do is lend money to contingent fee plaintiff attorneys so that they can help cover these case expenses and don't have to burn through all their cash flow to do it. So,
and
uh,
it's not that bad. Like, I used to get scared, like, oh, it's gonna cost hundreds. It's not like it's not that bad. Like, the
right.
insurance company, they're in a way they're kind of cheap too. They want to like limit their costs. That it's
Yeah.
so it's really, unless you're doing a crazy traumatic brain injury, something nuts, crazy, where you're gonna need like 10 experts, and yeah, it's gonna get a little expensive, but it's not that bad. You're gonna have a couple experts, maybe three, whatever it is, depending on what the case is. But it's not. Don't let that scare you, because I know when I was 5 years ago, I was, oh, it's gonna cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not like that. It's gonna, you need some, yes, you need some money to get the experts you want, but it's all doable. So
Right.
and if you're in that position where it's like, hey, I got a case and I can't afford this and there's too many experts, then you'll bring in other people. You can do it,
Yep.
and so it's not that bad. I haven't experienced that yet. No one's buried me. I'm sure it'll happen one day,
Yeah.
but
Well, you and I, before we got on air, we're talking a little bit about the challenges, because I think that all attorneys deal with this, especially plaintiff attorneys, because most plaintiff attorneys are smaller shops. You don't have, hundreds of people and a huge staff and all those kind of things. So the lead attorney or the owners or the partners, they're not only attorneys, but they're also small business people. And
yes,
we were kind of not joking, but laughing about, hey, when you go into trial or if you're prepping for a trial or a settlement conference or whatever, the business world's still going. People are still doing a job, wanting to get paid. You still got to pay your rent and all of the other things that small business people have to deal with. How have you handled being both a trial lawyer as well as being a business owner?
That's the challenging part. That's more
Right.
scary than the trials, I think. But I think number one is a good team. You need
Right.
a good team surrounded you. You need to trust that when you're out in court, if you're in trial, that things are going to be getting done in the office. You need a good team, and I think a good operations manager, someone that
Hmm.
can handle the admin and make sure that um, the everything the operations are running smoothly when you're out. I really think
Right.
if you're scaling your practice, you need a good operations manager. That's a game changer for sure.
Right.
So it is. That's I know how it is. It's very challenging. Some people are just a real solo that they just have no staff. It's very tough. You
Yeah.
have to. You have other cases that you need to get to, and you're trying to try cases. So I've been there, I know. But
Right.
as you scale your business and you have a support team, it's going to allow you to go out and get justice for that client and step out of the
Right.
office because things are going to be getting done. So there's we can do a whole seminar on scaling a practice and getting it where you want it to be.
Right.
But in summary, you got to have a good team. You got to have good culture. You got to have people that are a part of the same mission as you are and believe that they're all a part of it. I have for my trials, I do a voir dire with my staff, and I get their opinions on it. So everyone's involved and everyone's a part of the
Yeah.
win. So if you're, if you're that's what's made me successful at what I'm doing now is good operations manager. I got a solid. She's great. I trust her. Takes care of the business when I'm not here. You're
Right.
getting a great team. You gotta have a great team, good operations person. Someone that can handle the admin, run payroll for you that's trusted, can do that stuff. It's
Right.
necessary if you're going to be serious about getting out of the office and doing this. But
Yeah.
you'll get there. You just you have to it takes time. But yeah, definitely.
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I think it's true for almost any business. I think anybody who is successful realizes what they're good at and what they're not good at,
Yeah,
and hires the people around them to take care of the things that they're not good at or
definitely.
don't have the time to do. And we see it every day with the law firms who are our clients. The most successful ones are ones where the partners and the owners of the law firm realize, hey, what I really need to be doing is lawyering and trying cases and representing my clients and getting justice for those clients. I can hire people that can take care of the financial and the operations, but you're right. You need to have that right team that you can trust implicitly because you're not going to be there a lot of the time. And that's great advice because, like I said, the most successful law firms that we do business with have that mindset. But
Definitely. It's great.
um,
And then I know with me, it's I hate writing checks. I hate admin. My brain doesn't
right,
even. I can't stand it. I rather someone punch me like than do that. So I make mistakes. I'm just not the person that should be doing that. So
right,
you need a good person you can trust. That's the key thing. Trust, and you
yeah,
obviously want to have something, a system in place where you can verify things are being done. But yeah, it takes the right person to because the opposite is true too. There's some lawyers that are away doing trials and they don't have that or someone's
right,
taking advantage. So you just got to be careful.
yeah,
But there's ways and there's systems in place where you can verify what's going on. Making sure you're the
yeah.
one signing off on checks, making sure there's checks and balances you can do to do it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Figure out what you're good at, do that, and anything that you're not good at, just put it away.
right.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
Gabriel, I really appreciate you taking the time today. I think we're getting toward the end of our time. I put Gabriel's contact information up here. I really appreciate the time and the expertise that you brought to this today, Gabriel. And if you guys have any questions, you got his phone number and his email there. If we can ever do anything for you, please feel free to reach out. There are a bunch of other webinars, great topics about anything you could think of from the plaintiff law side of the shop, from practice management to tax issues to financial to tips like this for motor vehicle accidents and case enhancement. Go take a look at it. Feel free to give us a call anytime. And we appreciate your time today and hope you have a great one.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gabriel.